Hello and welcome. Today I'm adding Operation Logic Bomb from the Jellicoe Collection 1 to my ever-growing list where I rank every Evercade game ever. It was originally released in 1993 for the Super Nintendo and was known in Japan as Ikari no Yosai, which translates as the Fortress of Fury, and is apparently the second sequel to the Game Boy game Fortified Zone.
Story.
A government-funded research facility experimenting with dimensional physics accidentally opens a rift to another dimension, unleashing hostile creatures. A new player, cybernetic soldier, sent to retake the facility and defeat the hostile creatures. The storytelling is pretty sparse and unfolds through some cutscenes or security recordings which pop up every so often, which I think is pretty rare and fairly unique for the time of its release.
Graphics.
As you can see, the game isn't the most flashy looking Super Nintendo game, but the graphics are clean and more than functional. And there's some nice design to some of the enemies and the bosses. And the overall presentation is really good, especially with some of the little cutscene bits. And everything is clean, easy to read. Like I said, it's more than functional. It looks pretty good, like I said, just not particularly flashy.
Sound and music.
The sound effects are okay, and generally a little bit underwhelming. The weapon fire is, well, it sounds weak and unimpressive. The explosions have no real sense of impact or anything. But other than that, the sound effects, they're fine. I suppose a little bit workmanlike. The music is something I have mixed feelings for. It has, well, there's quite an atmospheric soundtrack, and it's also quite fast-paced and generally feels more high-octane and action-packed than the gameplay, rather than the gameplay is. But it does have a very sort of techno sci-fi vibe, and in that sense it suits the visuals. The pace just doesn't suit the gameplay so well, but it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it beyond feeling a little bit wrong for the gameplay. But again, it's a minor thing. I guess I'm nitpicking, or I feel like I'm nitpicking at this point.
Gameplay.
Obviously you can see that it's an overhead multi-directional shoot 'em up, but unlike the usual arcade style blastathons of things like Smash TV, Xeno Crisis or Shock Troopers, it's a slower, more methodical and tactical, I suppose slightly puzzle based affair. You start off with a machine gun and a spread shot, but you'll get other weapons as you progress through the game, including a laser that bounces off walls, a flamethrower, a rocket launcher, and so on and so forth. Switching between weapons will be key to defeating enemies and solving some of the puzzles. I say puzzles, they are very basic puzzles. You might need to destroy some enemy generators, but the only way you can successfully shoot them is with a specific weapon, maybe bouncing lasers off the walls or using a flamethrower and its drift to get them. The various weapons also add to the tactical nature of the combat, especially once the enemy density ramps up. If you charge forward into combat, you're probably going to die. You need to advance fairly methodically, using corners and bottlenecking the enemies to avoid getting overwhelmed. It isn't a massively long game, but it can be quite challenging, especially if you try and rush on ahead like I mentioned.
Overall opinion.
Operation Logic Bomb is a solid game. While it doesn't really excel in any one area, it neither looks amazing, it doesn't sound amazing, and I would say it doesn't even play amazing, or at least it doesn't play like you might expect at first glance, and it doesn't necessarily give the best first impression. But I think as long as you don't mind a bit of a slower paced action game, that it can be something of a hidden gem.
Ranking.
Placing Operation Logic Bomb on my ever-growing list where I rank every Evercade game ever, I've elected to put it above Project X Special Edition, but below Tiger Heli, ranking it at 118 out of 436 games that I've ranked so far. Anyway, I think that's enough for today's video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.